oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd, let's go, Brandon.
Greetings, everybody. What up? What up? Welcome back to another installment of By Brandon Jones, By Brandon Jones channel. I am Universal Jones, as I'm known on these YouTube streets. And I want to do a quick video. I'm not going to be here too long, probably about an hour, showing a couple video clips. And I want to have this conversation about what is it about the 4th of July or the 4th of July weekend that brings this onslaught of shootings and death. And what really kicked off this thought process for me was I was talking to one of my homegirls, and she was like, hey, I seen something. She's from Ohio. So I seen something in Akron, that Akron celebrating like the first time in a lot of years there was no shootings on the 4th of July. And I said, that's interesting, because I just seen somebody post something about New York, and New York had a similar post, like we didn't have any shootings on the 4th of July, which is crazy. Yeah, it's hot. There's a correlation between the heat and Negroes. Yeah. And I was like, damn, are cities really claiming, and our people, not just the cities, but people really claiming that it's a victory to not have one shooting on the 4th of July, which is crazy. And we're not even out of the 4th of July holiday. I mean, I'm pretty sure the news will be rolling out here pretty soon about all the shenanigans that have taken place last night. I have a news clip of one of them. No, that was Friday night. I have a clip of one of them locally here in the Twin Cities, but we've had a lot of stuff happen in Twin Cities. So I'm gonna bring you some Twin Cities news today, and then I'm gonna connect some dots between gun violence and then just what's happening and why we are honestly, there's nothing to be done about this situation. And you know, to cut a long story short, I think there's nothing to be done about the situation because we know who it is, why it is, and we don't want to seem like we are blaming victims, or we don't want to seem like we are shaming or being racist, but it's the same usual suspects over and over and over. And it's funny because I seen another story this morning when I was just going through YouTube, going through my little local news channels, and they had a white crime story, and but it was just such a stark difference between what you see with the black stories and the white stories. I might show it just to show the contrast, because I just had to chuckle because I'm thinking, okay, these people are about to get arrested. What's about to happen? But you can see the difference in white crime versus black crime, and it's like just stark difference. But I know what I'm gonna be called. I'm gonna be called a coon, you know, all that good stuff. I'm gonna be, you know, all these types of things here, you know, protect Lolo at all costs, just in case, you know, the coon brigade. I know who I am. I know what it is. Listen. For folks who are new here, not familiar with my background, I did spend a good chunk of my career doing something in youth violence. I used to be the integrated services director for a program called GVI, which is Group Violence Intervention. You can Google that. GVI is a national model to curb, quote unquote, community gun violence in most of your urban cities is probably the best way to say it. It comes out of John Jay College, and it is a federally funded program through the Office of it's OJJ. It's the Office of Justice, and I forgot the other. It's not juvenile justice, but OJJ. And there's millions of dollars that are pumped into this every year. And there's actually been some scrutiny, and I've been a little hesitant. Because I've already knew this was coming. That's why I got out of that work, because I knew that people weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. It was janky, but there was so much money flowing that at some point people were going to get caught up. And I got out of there. I had a good friend who he got out of there later, but I was telling him he needs to make his exit right away before he gets caught in the storm. But the storm started to happen about 6 months ago. So I don't know what's going to happen with the GBI. I think they're going to keep rolling that program, but it's going to look different for different people. But I do encourage people to Google GVI, Group Violence Intervention, because these project models that they have all over the United States, where they're empowering former, we'll call community leaders, but these are old dudes who used to be in gangs. They went to jail in the 90s, got out, and now they to a certain extent they've changed their lives. And the motto is to help these older OGs pretty much be like the liaisons to the kids who are in the streets today. But the model fails because there's really no structural redesign in these young people. It's really just saying, hey, let's get you what you need now so you don't have to shoot anyone to survive. And that's an old thinking on what's happening in these streets with these guns and these kids. These kids ain't out here selling drugs. Not these black kids. They ain't got, the cartels got the drugs on lock. A lot of these kids are shooting each other over just stupid beefs and clout. It's all clout driven. It's all emotion driven. There's a little bit of money here and there, but there's not as much as you think. And this is not the 80s. This is not the 90s. These kids are not Nino Brown. These kids are fucking half broke. And really, they're just long welfare recipients. And what I mean by that is they are living off of various different subsidies, whether that, and they're all governmental from one end or another, whether that's through a nonprofit organization, a governmental entity directly, or some sort of program. That's where these guys are able to survive. The gunplay and all that just comes with just the respect and part of the internet as well. But it's a lot deeper dive. I need to do like an actual essay on this so I can have sources and so my stuff is bulletproof. Because when I say that, it sounds like I'm just being a coon and I don't know what I'm talking about. But I've actually been in this world and I've actually done a lot of this work for quite some time. I was in that world from about 2015 till 2021. So I spent several years doing that and dealing with high level shooters, man. I can't tell you how many times I've had to get up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning to go to a scene, how many funerals I paid for, how many people I've shipped out of Minnesota so they were safe. Mothers I've talked to help bury, their kids, multiple kids, paying for fucking chicken platters so that people can eat during the funeral. Like I've seen and done a lot of this stuff for quite some time, man. Salute to Sam, salute to Speak, salute to Hood. And I had to get out of that work, honestly, because I just seen we were just putting band-aids on a bigger strategy or a bigger problem. And there was no strategy. There was no incentive to do anything different. There was no incentive to really get this to stop. And I think this is where my conservative turn started to happen a little bit, because I was seeing that the people were just getting money. I mean, I was getting paid very well, don't get me wrong, but I was like, damn, I'm actually trying to like fix this problem, but I feel like I'm the only one who cares enough to fix it because the money was so good for everybody that people were just getting paid. But again, that's GVI, Group Violence Intervention. I might pull together like a video essay series. If I do that, I already know I'm about to have like people in my real life come after me and try to shame me for it, but it needs to be talked about. But anywho, speaking of things that need to be talked about, let's get into this July 4th gun violence situation, because there is something to be said about why it always kicks off. Really, it often kicks off before Memorial Day, but July 4th seems to be kind of like the tipping point for all the craziness in the summer. So we're gonna look at a few video clips and I'm gonna share some commentary on them as we go. Oh, not this one. Bring this one up later. I thought I shifted these around already. Give me 1 second. Yeah, we're gonna do the scooter ride. Yeah, all right. So I'm gonna show this one. I actually know the woman pretty well in this video. I didn't even know she did this. When I was watching the clip, I'm like, oh shit, there's Pearl. But she's gonna share some of her perspective on what she's seen happen. But this is a typical weekend from, I would say, about May till about mid-September. These are typical activities in the great state of Minnesota, the Twin Cities, most notably North Minneapolis, where most of the black people are.
Neighbors in North Minneapolis are demanding something be done about violence in their community after another deadly shooting. Around 2:30 this morning, gunfire woke folks up near 21st and DuPont Avenues in North Minneapolis. Eric Schley spoke with neighbors who have at least one simple solution.
We've been checking in with Minneapolis police throughout the day. At last check, there have been no arrests, and the young man who lost his life, his name has not been released. We talked to several neighbors today who said they first thought it was fireworks and then realized it was gunfire, and a man lost his life.
Oh, they turning them on.
A live stream captured the moments after gunfire erupted in North Minneapolis.
I heard like 8 or 9 shots, and text 911 because it was just a little bit too close for comfort.
Denitha Pearl Warren was behind the camera.
I did not get very much sleep at all last night.
Her neighborhood was filled with MPD investigating a deadly shooting.
Then I heard someone yelling for help.
Oh, man.
But the street was so dark, I couldn't see a physical person. So that was alarming to me.
Minneapolis police say two men were riding scooters around the 2100 block of DuPont Avenue North. That's when gunfire broke out. A man in his 20s was hit. He later died at the hospital.
We're bearing our future. 20-year-old baby. We're bearing our future. And that's alarming.
This tragic loss of life is something we, as a community, simply cannot accept, said Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara in a statement. Our investigators are working urgently to determine whether this was a targeted or random act, and we need the public's help. If you have any information, no matter how minor it may seem, please come forward. To not know if he was just, driving through and got hit by a stray bullet, or if somebody was targeting him, it doesn't matter. Someone lost their life.
That is the important part. Right.
Before our cameras were rolling, you were talking to some other neighbors. This has impacted folks here.
It definitely has.
We spoke to other neighbors off camera concerned about the shooting, but also mentioning the need for reliable working streetlights. That's something you want to address.
Let me pause it here. I love Pearl. I know her. I know this lady. I know her family. She's a really good mom. She's a great advocate in the community. She does care. Couple things you'll notice. In Minnesota, our hoods don't look like everybody else's hoods. As you can see, the grass is green. You hear birds chirping in the background. It's trees everywhere. This is right smack dab in the hood. This is North Minneapolis. So it's kind of like the optics of the shit that happens in the Twin Cities is so alarming, because you get these behaviors that are so just like, wow, why is this happening here? But then when you look, it's like, how does this happen in a place where the neighborhood looks actually decent? I mean, there's some upkeep to some of these plants and things, but it's very green. Birds are chirping. Looks like a nice day. She's out here with her cup of coffee. It's just very interesting, right? But again, you have these behaviors that ruin these beautiful spaces. I've been on, I don't know if I've said it on my platform, but I've shared with other people on theirs that in Minnesota, in the state of Minnesota, we're known as the state of 10,000 lakes. There's more than 10,000, but that's kind of our claim to fame. So when you have these neighborhoods, it's kind of weird. Like you can have like these gunshots and stuff going off, and you can go like 2 blocks down the street and then you're at like a beautiful lake. It's just like the most mind-boggling thing. But it proves that even within a setting that may not dictate certain behaviors, you can still have those behaviors show up due to culture. And that's one of the biggest problems that we have, I think, with this whole gun violence thing, is that there's a cultural element that a lot of these programs, spokespeoples, thought leaders, they don't want to actually address, is that there is a culture dynamic that needs to be shifted to make this change. What Pearl is about to do here is accurate. She's about to point out something that does need to happen, but it is not going to move the needle into the gun violence problem. And you guys are gonna hear one of the strategies. And these are the type of things that get sent to City Hall. These are type of things that City Council gets, and then they do the change. They make the change happen, and nothing changes because we're really not addressing the issue. This is not the strategy here. But let's hear what Pearl has to say. Salute to Pearl. That's my homie.
Spoke to other neighbors off camera concerned about the shooting, but also mentioning the need for reliable working streetlights. That's something you want addressed.
That is, definitely. Having well-lit communities would deter a lot of the foolishness that lurks in the dark.
We reach out.
And I'm going to prove to you that that is not true with my next video clip. I'm going to prove to you in the same community that that's not true. Watch.
To the mayor's office, and we're told they're going to look into what we raised. Now, if you have any information that could help Minneapolis police solve this fatal shooting, you can call Crime Stoppers. You can see the number right there in the bottom of your screen, 1-800-222-8477. Remember, you can remain anonymous when you call Crime Stoppers. In the newsroom, Eric Shalou, 5 Eyewitness News.
All right. My next video clip right here is going to prove to you that that well-lit theory does not make a difference due to the cultural element that is going on amongst this gang violence piece. If you're not going to address the cultural elements of it, and you don't get to the heart of why these young people are running around with these high-powered weapons, it's not going to change. It's not the fucking lights, okay? Again, look at the neighborhood. Pay attention to optics. A lot of green. Look at that grass. Look at those trees. This is Minnesota, folks. It's a beautiful place to live. You got a lot of issues, but it's a beautiful place to live. It's not the fucking street lights. Here we go.
For my neighbor or coming for me, you know, you never know.
Well, noon tonight, a North Minneapolis man was home with his kids when a person with a gun pulled into his driveway, walked through his...
Do you see that weapon? It looks like an ARP. ARP for sure. Let's see if I can get it. Maybe I'll slow it down a little bit. You see him walking with this gun. And they're going to show more of this clip, but I just want to point this out now so you can pay attention to it when they bring it. Oh, that sounds awful. But he's going to hop out the passenger side. He's got that thing on him. He's got an ARP. It's yep. Let's see if we can get the daylight on it. As you can see there, probably has about a 30-round clip on it. Could be more. He just walks in somebody's yard. But let me get you guys the story. I don't want to lead the narrative too much. All right, here we go.
Open fire. Now, this is the doorbell video showing that person. And this all happened in broad daylight, too.
Investigators say that they found evidence of gunfire when they showed up, but tonight they're still searching for the gunman. Fox 9's Mike Manzoni talked with a man who called 911. And Mike, he told you that he feared for his safety.
Kelsey and Tim, he and his children were just feet away from where you see the person walking up with that gun. Police say, fortunately, the shooter didn't hit anyone, but that's not very comforting for people who live in that neighborhood. A Ring doorbell camera caught this gray sedan speeding down North Sheridan Avenue in Minneapolis Wednesday morning. Then, just seconds later,
It's unfortunate that he found something to shoot at.
An explosion of gunfire. About 5 minutes earlier, around 10:30, another Ring camera in the back of the house captured the same car pulling up.
I just so happened to be in my office and the shots went off and I checked my Ring app.
This man, who asked us not to use his name, owns the house. He was inside when someone holding a gun gets out, walks up his stairs and through his yard. You hear what sounds like screaming or dogs barking as the person takes off.
The alert that I had was somebody was in my driveway. So when I watched the video, I saw somebody getting out with like a firearm. And my kids were home listening to audiobooks, so they didn't hear.
Just walking up this way. The man says he isn't sure who the shooter was after, but he has an idea.
And there was actually a pedestrian walking on the sidewalk, so it seemed like he was searching for him, targeting him or something. He needs to learn a lesson sooner or later, and I hope they catch him.
All right, lot of issues with this. In the last video, you seen my good friend Pearl talk about we need better streetlights, which they do, and the city needs to get that fixed. It's not a hard fix to get the goddamn streetlights on, okay? But that's not going to deter this violence. This video shows that because this is broad daylight. Again, this is this man in this video, the homeowner. He's a homeowner. He's paying taxes. He's a father. He's present with his children. He has a security system on his home, so he actually gives a shit about, giving his people, at least his family, say that he's trying. But this is the type of stuff that it's just a normal Wednesday. His kids are enjoying their summer, listening to their audiobooks. He's in his office doing whatever. and you just have some young knucklehead just ringing out, shots, bro, on the side of this man's house. Just walks in his house brazenly to shoot at somebody else on the sidewalk. This is a problem. Yeah, Pearl was the woman in the first video I shown. She's a lady that I know. I didn't know she was in the video clip until like right before I started the show. And I was like, oh shit, Pearl's in this. But again, this is the problem. This is a cultural element. And it's mainly Black folks who are in this cultural element, but there are other ethnic groups that are involved in this as well. It's not just us, but we are the main culprits of this at the moment. We are the majority, like way the majority in this, and it's our young people. And again, we're never going to change the situation if we talk about street lights or environmental justice, or it's just hot. So, when it gets hot, Black people get angry. Like, it's a problem. Yeah, Mexicans too in particular areas. Absolutely. Absolutely. And especially as we get more of these other Spanish speaking folks who are from these other countries who don't have the same sort of disposition as we do as Americans. They don't give a damn. They'll come in here and do whatever they need to do to survive. And we better stop acting like that's not the truth. Because we seen what was happening in Colorado a few months ago. We seen what's been happening in Chicago. It's not going to be sweet. And we need to wake up. And yeah, when it gets hot outside, people are more likely to engage in aggressive behavior. But why is it us that gets to this level of letting off, 20 rounds in the middle of the day on somebody's house? It's crazy, bro.
And that man says he's turned this video over to police. Investigators say they still haven't arrested anyone. Kelsey?
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Unfortunately.
And there's a good chance that car, yeah, illegals. Yeah. So I said Spanish speaking folks. You didn't like my terminology? Illegals. I was about to say. Oh, there's a good chance that car was a stolen car. And that's probably why they can't find this guy. That they probably ran the plates and that car turned up stolen. So it's a mess, man. It's a mess. Another thing that's interesting about this Minneapolis crime situation. Let me see if I can pull up a map. And I'm just using this because this is where I'm from, and map of North Minneapolis. This is where I'm from, and I have a little bit of notability in the city. So, I'm privy to some of these things that end up happening, both from a actual resident and a professional in some of these areas. But I want to show something, because believe it or not, man, Minneapolis is not that big of a place. So this stuff is all happening within probably like a 6-mile radius. I don't know. It's not that large. It's not that large. So a lot of the drama and trauma and craziness happens in what we call North Minneapolis. Here, let me zoom out so people can kind of see. This is the Twin Cities. This is Minneapolis. All right. The St. Paul. I'm from St. Paul. I live right over here. I stay out of the mess. I'm in the burbs. Okay. Now in Minneapolis, over north. This is where we call over north. Now, over north is interesting. This North Minneapolis, maybe I should do a little mini doc on North Minneapolis. North Minneapolis used to be a Jewish community. This is when the early 1900s until the 50s and 60s. So when the interstate system started to be built, you started to know kind of a white flight or a Jewish flight out of North Minneapolis, and they went west to what's called Golden Valley, and then there's another place called St. Louis Park. So here's Golden Valley right here, and then St. Louis Park, which is right over here. Right here. So you started to see this migration out of North Minneapolis to Golden Valley and St. Louis Park, where you have a lot of Jewish folks. And they left North Minneapolis. Now, North Minneapolis is a prime area of the city for two reasons. One, it's very close to downtown. Whoops. The Jordan neighborhood that's where a lot of crap happens. But it's very close to downtown Minneapolis. So you have that access point, and it's right along the Mississippi River. So this is like prime place to live, because if you think back about that at those times, if you're a warehouse worker or you're working an industrial job, a lot of those jobs are going to be along this space here, because you got the business coming out of downtown Minneapolis, and you have the river that floats a lot of the shipments and things up and down the United States. So these are prime areas. These are prime areas. But what happened with the Great Migration of Black folks, once really the second wave of the Great Migration, you started to get more Black folks up here in the Twin Cities to work at Pillsbury, to work at Honeywell and places of that nature, because that's what Black people did. So Black people would literally leave places like, will come up to places like this, where, they'll come from Omaha, Waterloo, Iowa, St. Louis. We have so many people from Chicago. It's kind of crazy. Chicago people, they'll go to like Racine, they'll go to Milwaukee, and then when things don't go well there, they'll just keep on coming up to the Great North. My people came from Danville, Illinois, which is right on the border here, close to Indiana, and they'll just keep on trailing on up to the great state. So like the second wave of folks really is how we landed a lot of Black people here in the Twin Cities. So what ended up happening is you get this Black migration in here. You have the racial issues, the rioting and all that stuff, and you get this white flight that ends up happening, and you end up having this economic base and this cultural base leaving this particular community. So it was a little bit more of a mixed community in the late 60s and 70s, but by the 80s, North Minneapolis was predominantly black. And just like many other urban cities, North Minneapolis was hit with the same thing: crack cocaine, all that shit, the war on drugs, all that stuff took place and started to impact this neighborhood. But you can see this is not a large area of territory for all this craziness to be happening. But this is what people like Pearl, people like the gentleman we just seen in the video, they live in this radius here, and it's not a big radius. It's really captured off by three highway systems: 55, which is really not a highway, it's more like a main street, 100, and then 494. It just kind of boxes all this in. This is what we call North Minneapolis. This is where a majority of the craziness takes place in the Twin Cities. And again, it's not that big of a space and place. It's insane. And as you can see, there's bodies of water that are like built in here. You can kind of see them there. So like I said, like Minnesota is just very interesting. We have so many bodies of water that you can literally be in the hood and have a really nice lake, like not too far from you. So it is an interesting dynamic. But I want to point that out because, when people see things on the news, I don't think we always get a grasp for how large of an area we're talking about when these things happen. So when you hear Minneapolis news, typically they're talking about North Minneapolis, which is just this area here. It's not a lot. One thing that I should also point out is a lot of the drama and stuff has started to leak north in Brooklyn Center. So some of you may have heard of Brooklyn Center. This is where I can't remember her name, the female cop accidentally shot what was his name? Dante White. That was in Brooklyn Center. So a lot of Black folks, and this is where our African immigrant population starts to settle in the Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park area. So it has moved north a little bit, but most of your drama is down here in North Minneapolis. Now, there's another area, and I'm going to show a video on this area called South Minneapolis. This is where George Floyd unfortunately met his end, is in South Minneapolis. I like South Minneapolis. I considered buying a home there before George Floyd died. And I've a lot of my play. If I go and hang out, or if I'm on a date, or I'm kicking it, or I'm taking my kids somewhere, I'm usually going to South Minneapolis because they have a lot of things to do over there. It's a really cool space, but there's a lot of stuff that happens there as well. But this is South Minneapolis, a lot of drama. In South Minneapolis, you have a lot more Latinos, mostly Mexicans. You have some Black. You have your East African population there. You have your native population. Your urban natives live in South Minneapolis mainly. And then you have white folks. And the more south you go in South Minneapolis, it gets more expensive and it gets more and more white. And that's done deliberately to keep the riffraff kind of contained in a specific area. But like Lake Nokomis, like it's expensive to live over here. Lake Nokomis, all these things here. Lake Harriet, all these things, very expensive place to live. But you get a lot of the riffraff, we'll call it, and I'll say it around this area here. George Floyd Square happened around 30. It was on 38th. So George Floyd Square is like right around here. So a lot of stuff happens. A lot of stuff. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, that is George Floyd Square. Yeah, that's right. George Floyd Square is right there. This is the Target that burned down. The AutoZone is like right here. The 4th precinct, which burned down, is this building right here. Like all that. That is Minneapolis. So there's not a lot of territory for all this stuff that actually happened. I'm probably boring people to death with all this, but it is interesting. All right, let's see what people are saying. The dead zone. Yeah, it is a dead zone. Man, you should see, they don't do the shot spotter anymore. They had to get rid of it. But for folks who don't know what shot spotter is, it's pretty much I think it's called a geo mapping, where when there's shots ringing off, they create these little plots on a map. And over the years, it's been so consistent that with ShotSpotter, that damn near, like, let's say the spots were purple, you would have all this purple, some of this purple, and then you will have like the other colors might be, it could be a gunshot, it could be a firework. Let's say that's yellow, or disturbance happened. Let's say that was an orange or whatever. But you'll see all purple. All here, and they're like, this is racist. It's only purple in the black neighborhood. Just like, well, I mean, it's catching the shots in a specific area. What are you supposed to do with that? Like, just because something's true doesn't mean it's racist. It can be racist and true, yes. But damn, I mean, if the technology is just to catch gunshots and all the gunshots are happening in one area, but what are you supposed to do about that? I mean, come on. So anyway, let's see. We're talking about drinking Guinness. Well, cheers to you, Stanley. Hopefully you are enjoying yourself. All right. Let me go to my next clip. So I'm gonna bounce away from Minnesota real quick and talk about pretty much our big cousin Chicago, because Chicago has this long lineage of violence during the 4th of July weekend, and it turned it back up this weekend. They turned it back up. We had the mass shooting on Wednesday there. And then it just got even more wild after that. So here is some news out of Chicago.
Unfortunately, more violence in the city. So far, at least 40 people have been shot and 6 killed across Chicago this 4th of July weekend. Some neighborhood residents walked the track at Avalon Park, unaware just hours earlier gun violence claimed the life of a teenage girl while wounding a man there.
I'm always shocked at the things that's happening in this area, but again, I'm getting used to it at the same time. But it is heartbreaking.
Just before
he's getting used to it. No one should be getting used to a teenage girl getting shot in the fucking park. Like, come on. Like, sometimes stuff breaks my heart, but then I have to stop caring so much to keep going.
11 p.m. Friday night, investigators say gunfire erupted in the park located in the 1200 block of East 83rd Street on the city's south side. Police say 16-year-old Mia Smith died of a bullet wound to the throat, while a 35-year-old man was hit in the leg after an attacker approached them on foot and opened fire. In the hours to follow, there would be 2 new mass shootings. The first within the city's back of the yards neighborhood, leaving 7 people wounded. It happened near 48th and Justine just after 11 o'clock. That's when witnesses say 2 gunmen walked up to a crowd and started shooting. 4 women injured range in age from 21 to 27 years old and were seriously or critically hurt, along with a 21-year-old and a 29-year-old man. A 42-year-old man also remains hospitalized. Another attack on the group happened near the Cook County Criminal Courts building. Investigators say 4 men were sitting in a car near 27th in California when another vehicle pulled up and someone inside started shooting. The men, who range in age from 25 to 33 years old, each suffered multiple gunshot wounds. Street pastor and anti-violence activist Dr. Donovan Price says he's concerned about what feels like an uptick in gun violence.
Sometimes it's about plain evil. And as long as people have guns, they're going to use them whenever they get angry. It's a tool of convenience, of angry convenience.
ABC 7 is tracking holiday weekend.
A tool of angry convenience. That's interesting terminology. Salute to that doctor. Man, my overall point this morning is that there's a cultural element that needs to be talked about openly and honestly, and there needs to be a push for policy to deal with it. And it's gonna the real answer is gonna sound racist. It's gonna feel racist, but it's the only way we can really curb this. You have to start locking these folks up with these guns. You gotta get these guns off the streets because they're just coming. Everybody's got a gun, and you have to come down hard on these people, no matter how old they are, when they are caught and they need to be locked up. I know it doesn't sound good. I know. But what is the other solution? You have people who have temperaments. Shit, sometimes not even a temperament. They just don't care. They will blow your head off and 30 people around you because they can't aim their weapons just because they don't like you or you represent a different clique, whatever. That is dangerous. When you have people who don't have any damn purpose in life, they don't have anything going for them. They're about whatever, whenever, and however. You're gonna get more of this. So yeah, we can say it's the heat and it's July and people are out celebrating with each other, etc. But damn, why does it have to come to violence like this and people just dying? It's insane, man. That we have to deal with this psychology. This psychology is wrong. There's something wrong with Black people and violence. I said it. And I also said, yes, this kind of gun culture thing does sprinkle into other groups. But for some reason, it's always us that let the shots ring out, and many people end up losing their lives. We need to do something about this. Internally, as a community, we need to do something first before we expect external people to do anything. We got to tell the truth. We can't talk about changing streetlights. That's not going to make a difference.
In shootings from the morning of Thursday, July 3rd at midnight to the evening of Sunday, July 6th at 11:59 p.m. At least 44 people have been shot, resulting in 6 homicides, a concern to some Chicagoans fearful about their safety.
I have 2 sons, and I'm very concerned about them. I have 2 brothers, one that was murdered and one that was shot. So it's affected me personally.
I mean, just listen to that trauma, man. This lady's scared that her sons can't even live their lives. She already has lost a brother to gun violence. Like this is normal to people. Black people, this is normal to Black people.
Police continue to investigate, but so far, no one is in custody and no arrests have been made.
For months, we have been reporting on record crime plaguing our streets. Tonight, we're digging into the why.
Stanley, how am I being anti-Black by pointing out this problem? Because I'm pointing out the problem. The gun violence problem is a Black problem, Stanley. The numbers prove it. The research proves it. Go to John Jay College. They have a lot of reports, a lot of data there. I don't know why that's anti-Black. There's a problem within our community, Black folks, where gun violence amongst our young people specifically is so rampant. It's rampant in every city across this country. I don't give a shit if it sounds like what Bree Brave has to say. It's the fucking truth. It's everywhere. Anybody put a city in the chat. I'll prove it to you. I can damn near guarantee you within the last week there's been multiple gun violence situations. I said just put any city in there. Any city. Make sure it's an urban setting though. There's a problem with that. And maybe it's just urban Blacks. I do know. But there's an issue there. I don't think that's anti-Black to say that. Niggas be shooting each other. Yes. And I'm saying there's something there we have to deal with in order for it to stop. I don't see that. I don't think that's anti-black, man. I don't think that there's a desire to change anything. I think it's been normalized. We've grown to accept that we will just start that the killing of ourselves, especially at the hands of our young people, is a normal thing. Listen to that lady in the last video I just played.
Unfortunately,
shit's normal, man. I mean, listen to what he said. This is the guy. He does the. I guarantee you, he part of his income is this group violence intervention work stuff.
Street pastor and anti-violence activist Dr. Donovan Price.
Dr. Donovan Price. He's on the streets. He's talking to young people. He's talking to people who are shooters involved in this stuff. He's out here doing the work, as we like to say.
Says he's concerned about what feels like an uptick in gun violence.
Sometimes.
Wait, what? He's saying that there's an uptick in gun violence. I thought crime was down.
It's about plain evil. And as long as people have guns, they're going to use them whenever they get angry. It's a tool of convenience.
A tool of convenience. Now, what he won't say, which I will say and sound anti-black, is that when young black people have guns, it's a tool of convenience to settle your anger with guns. That doesn't happen in every community with guns. There's an issue there. You have this young person hopping out that Chevy Malibu with an ARP in the middle of the day while this dad is with his family in the house, letting off shots on the side of this man's house, trying to shoot somebody on the fucking sidewalk. He just walks to the backyard of this man's house. And that's not an isolated incident. That's like that type of crazy shit happens all the time. You want to call me anti-black for pointing out the truth. I didn't cherry pick these stories. All this shit happened within the last week. Every story I just showed you happened within the last 5 fucking days, Stanley. Pick a city, pick a month, and I'll point to you the problem.
Of angry convenience.
ABC 7 is tracking holiday weekend shootings from the morning of Thursday, July 3rd at midnight to the evening of Sunday, July 6th at 11:59 p.m.
I mean, they're telling you.
At least 44 people have been shot, resulting in 6 homicides, a concern to some Chicagoans fearful about their safety.
I have 2 sons, and I'm very concerned about them.
Listen to this lady. Shayna Riley. Listen to Shayna. Listen to how normal this sounds to her. And then you tell me I'm being anti-black when I'm just pointing out we need to fix this problem in the community.
Fearful about their safety.
I have 2 sons, and I'm very concerned about them. I have 2 brothers, one that was murdered and one that was shot. So
she's got 2 sons. She's concerned about their safety. She has 2 brothers, one that was murdered and one that was shot. She's not an isolated incident. There are a lot of Shayna Rileys out there, and not just in Chicago.
It's affected me personally.
Police continue to investigate, but so far, no one is in custody and no arrests have been made.
For months.
Of course not. All right, I'm gonna round out because I got other things to do. I'm Uncle Ruckus, and that's fine. Oh, salute to John. Greetings, Nini. Thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. I would love to have a conversation with you, Nini, at some point. Because, yeah, I feel like me and you, we need to talk. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Feel free to send me an email. Either stream or off stream, Nini. Let's talk. Hit me up. All right. Another thing I want to show you all, because, again, you can say I'm anti-black. That's fine. But there's a deeper problem here. Now, this video I am going to show is not from the last few days. Every video I just shown is like from the last 4 days, if not yesterday or this morning. But this video is from 3 years ago, and I saved this video specifically because they talk to a couple of these guys in cliques, and they talk about this dynamic. And you don't often get to hear from the people who are actually living this life. You hear about them long after they live their life, but not while they're in the midst of it. And I thought that one of our local news channels did as good as they can, given what they are calling a gang war. But it's really not a gang war. We don't have gangs in the Twin Cities, and honestly, most cities don't have quote unquote gangs. They have cliques. They're like little offshoots of gangs. They're not as organized. The blacks don't really have gangs. They have more cliques. Gang organization is something that many black group violence, we call them violent groups, we'll call them, don't have. They don't have the organization. They're not like the cartels. They're not like the Latinos. Hell, they're not even like the Asians or even the whites. They have a lot more structure and organization. Now we can dive into that one day too, why that may be. But blacks tend to have more clique behavior within the last 20 to 25 years. It's been more cliques than actual gangs. And there's a significant difference to why that is and what happened in the 90s when a lot of the OGs got locked up. That kind of created a fracturing of gang culture where a lot of young people just started to click up and do their own thing, where we have all these cliques now. And you see it even in our hip hop, in our rap music today, not even hip hop, but in our rap music today, where you'll have these guys and they'll have like 3 letters before their actual like stage name. Like they'll be like GSTG or something, right? They'll just have all these different things. Yes, that is my point. Black people can't even form gangs correctly. That is true. And there's books that talk about this from people that you probably would respect. We don't even organize gangs correctly. Yes. That Nino Brown shit and stuff that used to happen in the 90s, that is over. That's not what we have today. And a little inside bit, I wish I could get this guy to come on camera, but I used to be, so for folks who know, I don't practice clinically anymore, but I've been a therapist for quite some time. And one of my clients used to run guns for the cartel. I wish I could actually have him talk about this, but he can't. And he let me in on something that I had suspicion to, and he kind of just told me out of a whim. But he was telling me like the reason why the cartels don't deal with the black gang is because they don't have enough organization and they will mess things up. And he was telling me, you know, the cartel, they run a pretty tight ship. Like they have a lot of different things going on. And they say when they deal with blacks, they have to like build like a really high level of trust with them to deal with them because they don't expect the black folks to do well. And that always stood out to me like, damn, even amongst gang networking, they're like, we ain't even dealing with you black people. It's kind of crazy. But thank you. I'm glad that you respect me. And yeah, I may be anti-black. It's okay. But anyway, yes, even within gang culture, black folks do not do gang culture well. They don't. I mean, look at some of our crimes. Our crimes are not the greatest either. We do dumb crimes. It's kind of crazy. That's what the white mobs believed back in the day. Yeah, I mean, yes. I think that there's something there. I think there's something there where, you know, sounds like we need a panel. You guys want to come up here? I really don't have the time for a panel. I might come back later today. I have to leave here in like 20 minutes to get to where I need to be. But I'm gonna show this video and then I'm gonna get out of here.
We have been reporting on record crime plaguing our streets. Tonight, we're digging into the why. Why is it happening and who's behind it?
Minneapolis police say gangs are behind the bullets, and they say gangs are turning young kids into criminals, and their guns are spraying fire into the streets and causing a lot of damage and death.
Tonight, we're going to hear rare perspective, from a gang member. Brad Chapman has the interview that you will see only on WCCO.
Bullets ring out day and night. People who call Minneapolis' North Side home know the sound all too well when they tell WCCO gang violence is a driving force.
Death keeps it going.
For the first time, we're getting inside perspective from a gang member. He agreed to talk openly if we concealed his identity.
I'm from the Lows.
We interviewed him in shadow.
All right, real quick, the Lows. So when I showed you guys that map of North Minneapolis, like it wasn't a large territory, but it's divided by 2 major concentrations of cliques. One is called the Highs, which is on the high end of North Minneapolis, and it's highs because the ways that the streets are numbered, they're on the high end of the numbers, and it's split by the main street in Minneapolis, which is called Broadway. So you have the cliques that are in the highs, and then you have the cliques that are in the lows. They're in the low numbers of the streets. I didn't make these rules. These are the rules. So when you hear him say, I'm a part of the lows, he's a part of the cliques that are on the lower end of North Minneapolis.
He agreed to talk openly if we concealed his identity.
I'm from the lows.
We interviewed him in shadow and revoiced his message word for word. We'll call him John.
The big gangs are the SUBs
His name is John.
and the YNTs. Those are the biggest gangs on the north side of Minneapolis.
John says these rivals belong to territorial groups known as the highs and the lows.
We're told that West Broadway Avenue is the landmark that separates the highs from the lows. Anything south of West Broadway Avenue is lows territory. North belongs to the highs.
There's not no structure in the streets no more.
John,
listen to what he just said, Stanley. There's no structure in the streets no more. This is black gang culture. They don't have structure. It's the Wild Wild West, and it's a bunch of little fucking bandit groups just doing whatever they want to do. There's no organization. There's no structure. Part of that's because there's no drugs to really sell either. So you just got people with guns and fucking attitudes together, and their brains aren't developed. They're just out here doing whatever.
Separates the highs from the lows. Anything south of West Broadway Avenue is lows territory. North belongs to the highs.
There's not no structure in the streets no more.
John refers to gangs without structure as cliques. Their disorganization makes them dangerous.
It's leaders out there in gangs. And cliques, there ain't no leaders. Everybody wants to be a leader.
So we're going to go into kind of our gang hotspot. The highest volume of calls in the city is Broadway and Lindale.
I met members of these cliques during a ride-along with Minneapolis police gang expert Sergeant Andrew.
That building he just rolled past, I used to work there. That's called North Point Health and Wellness Center. He's right on Penn Avenue.
So we're going to go into kind of our gang hotspot. The highest volume of calls in the city is Broadway and Lindale.
I met members of these cliques during a ride-along with Minneapolis police gang expert Sergeant Andrew Schroeder last fall.
You're going to see up on the right here an all too common kind of scene.
Sergeant says these cliques are usually led by people who have the most money and guns.
Now, I would describe it more as not a fight, not a battle. It's a war.
The war is fueled by retaliation. This for that.
The war is fueled by retaliation. This for that. Not drugs, because these niggas ain't got the drugs. The cartels took that off the map. These cliques are users. They're not sellers. Okay? Now they'll do some scamming. There's some scamming in there. That's where a lot of the money comes from. And they'll use women. That's where a lot of the money comes from. Stealing, scamming women. That's it. But again, what is the motive behind these young cliques? It's all clout, emotion driven. Let's go.
The war is fueled by retaliation. This for that. Back and forth messages that play out on social media, then the street.
There's no victory. There's no ending point. It's you took one of ours, so we take one of yours. There's no end.
He's also seen the recruiting of kids.
We've seen shootings this year where it's very clear that older gang members are present on scene, have conversation with younger juvenile gang members, almost directing them to go then do shootings.
These new youngsters are recruited for one particular reason.
Young guys.
Think about what they're saying here. You calling me anti-black. I'm just bringing you the knowledge that this is what's happening. This is not a Minnesota thing. They're just taking a nice little scope into the Twin Cities. This is happening all across the United States. And if being honest, it's happening in some places in the UK as well.
Because they won't get no prison time.
Kids as young as 13 instructed to grab cars and cash them in for money.
Hey, he crazy. Watch out.
The driving force behind the Twin Cities carjacking crisis.
You see a Hellcat running at the gas station, you still got in the back of your mind that there's a guy out there that'll give you $60,000 right now for that Hellcat. That $60,000 is going to run all the good thoughts that you had because you broke.
You heard that right. Carjacked and then sold for $60,000. Fast money, Sergeant Schroeder says, is the reason it's hard to get kids out of gangs. $15 an hour jobs can't compete when you can make thousands stealing cars.
Programs, midnight basketball, job programs. Let's get these water boys off the street so let's get them $20 an hour. It can't compete because they can hit one lick and make 60. They can hit one lick and make 60 off a Hellcat. They don't want a fucking job. They don't want to go to school. If they did, they would have graduated high school or stayed in school. They don't want the job program, and they don't give a shit about midnight basketball. Call me anti-black if you want. We don't understand the motives of these young people, the desires. This is what they want. Now, it doesn't sound good because you don't want kids to feel this way, but this is our kids. This is
Because you're broke.
You heard that right. Carjacked and then sold for $60,000. Fast money, Sergeant Shorter says, is the reason it's hard to get kids out of gangs. $15 an hour jobs can't compete when you can make thousands stealing cars.
Young people are making $20,000 in a day and sometimes doing it several times a week. How do you stop that? And when there's no real consequences to that, how do you say no?
There's no real consequences. How many stories does I go over? I pointed out things. Hell, John's even pulled up some stories from time to time. Messy Michon is another person who pulls up these stories where you have somebody who gets caught for murder and they say what the golden sentence afterwards. They were released on bond for another case. It's like, God damn. We gotta lock, man. I don't want to lock people up, but we gotta do something about. We gotta get these people off the streets, man. They don't have any desire to change.
Schroeder thinks the system needs to hold people accountable, from parents being active parents to tougher penalties.
We're looking at a guy right now that has 7 open felony cases. This isn't one case. This is 7 times being arrested for felonies. This isn't stealing.
7 felony. What the fuck?
Open felony cases. This isn't one case. This
system needs to hold people accountable, from parents being active parents to tougher penalties.
We're looking at a guy right now that has 7 open felony cases. This isn't one case. This is 7 times being arrested for felonies. This isn't stealing a candy bar, right? 7 felony cases, and he's out again committing more felonies.
For John, the gang member we spoke with, serving prison time and raising a new family has him thinking there's more to life than gangs.
I just want to get the message out to the gang members. Just leave it alone, bro. It's not going to go well. It's not going to go well at all. You know what I'm saying? You're either going to end up dead or in jail.
Now, John tells us he is trying to walk away from his activities and trying to start fresh with his new family. He says he refuses to be a statistic.
He refuses to be a statistic.
Right, your report is just stunning. It's certainly eye-opening, and I understand that you learn more about what happens once those cars are stolen.
Well, I did. We learned thieves will sell the cars for parts, use them in other crimes, and then crash them as they ditch the vehicles for new ones. They also told me about guns and a device known as switches. That's where people legally buy an inexpensive part online that turns handguns into illegal automatic weapons. We'll share that information Wednesday evening.
Hell, why not? Let's share it right now.
All right. Reg Chapman. This week,
Salute to Reg Chapman, by the way. Let's learn about switches. If you don't know about switches, this ain't grandma switches, or she told you to go outside and grab the switches, and then you bring her the switch or two, and she ties them together with a rubber band and taps that behind. These switches, this is beyond grandma's switch. These switches, they cause havoc to neighborhoods. You thought grandma's switch, got the generations right. Wait till you learn about these switches. These switches, this is a generational tool for your ass for sure.
CCO has been investigating Minneapolis's gang problem.
Police link thousands of crimes to gangs every year, much of it violent, stealing innocent lives. Only on WCCO, Reg Chapman shared his sit-down interview with an active gang member. We're calling him John. He agreed to speak openly if we disguised his identity and revoiced his message. John told us about 2 rival gangs, the highs and the lows, and how they recruit kids.
And this is where the news kind of gets it a little mixed up here, and it's very complex to understand if you don't understand Black culture. The highs and the lows are not 2 rival gangs. They're 2 rival divisions of gangs. So think of it like the Western Conference versus the Eastern Conference in the NBA. The highs are the West. The lows are the East. And then they have a bunch of different teams in that conference. It's not fucking the highs is a gang and the lows is a gang. No, there's a bunch of little teams in those conferences, and those conferences are rivals amongst themselves. But it's hard for them to understand that because they don't know, they don't understand the dynamics within all this. And Pierce, I won't be here that long. But I will be back probably later on today. And I am still going to cover your video, by the way, too. Yeah, Rex Chapman, he's a good dude. Actually, Rex is a really good dude in the news. I've talked to him several times. One thing that people don't know about Rex is he's like best friends with Dave Chappelle. It's kind of a weird thing, but yeah, Rex is cool. So now I'm a slut. Thanks. So Hood, it's not uptown versus downtown because the neighborhood is so small. It's literally just North Minneapolis. North Minneapolis in total it might be about 8 miles in total. So if you look at like 4 miles this way, 4 miles that way is what splits the two kind of conferences of cliques. It's close to downtown Minneapolis, but it's not quite uptown downtown. It's I'm telling you, man. Most of the what's also crazy about this, and I learned this too running the gang program. Was a lot of these guys, they are rivals with each other, but they live in such close quarters that like they'll have like same baby mamas. They might have went to high school together. Their kids go to school together, but they are at each other's necks. But there's such a enmeshment amongst their lives that is weird. So like, let's say one of their cousins is having like a birthday party. You got to go at a specific time because the other cousin might get there and it might start a fight or a shooting. Like this is the psychology of these people. Like you have people who are in the highs and the lows and they have the same last name because they're related, but they hate each other because they represent the other segment of the neighborhood. It's fucking crazy. Yeah, it's pretty much like another 8 Mile. This shit is insane. I'm an uptown girl. Thanks, Imperious. This shit's insane. But let's talk about switches.
It's to become criminals motivated by fast cash. Tonight, we're going to break new ground from our interview, revealing the danger in the gun power, making it dangerous for our communities and our police officers working to make the streets safer. Reg joins us now with more of his exclusive interview. It's very interesting, troubling too, Reg.
It really is, Frank, and this interview covered an array of topics, but tonight's may be some of the most disturbing. John forecasts a dangerous summer with gangs using auto sears to convert weapons into mini machine guns. An unmistakable sound that slices through the silence. Rapid fire, multiple rounds let loose with a single squeeze of a trigger.
30 seconds, 30 bullets will be out.
Lowell's gang member John says that switch and firepower is caused by this, a device commonly known as a switch, the impact giving gangs an edge over the police.
That's what's really causing the hectic right now. Everybody has switches and it's not regular gunfire anymore. It sounds like an automatic machine gun or something. A lot of innocent people are getting shot. Why? Because the switches are around now.
John says gang members' only objective is to shoot their target. They see the innocent collateral damage as part of the game.
If you're in the crowd and they see you in the crowd, they'll just shoot the whole crowd. They'll just spray the whole crowd.
We're consistently recovering high-capacity magazines that hold 50 bullets, 100 bullets. And how do you combat that?
Here's how switches work. This is a semi-automatic pistol. The pull of the trigger releases one bullet at a time. This is a fully automatic pistol, non-stop, rapid-fire bullets as long as the trigger is pulled. It's a machine gun created with the installation of this metal switch that can be purchased online but are illegal to possess. MPD gang expert Sergeant Andrew Schroeder says switches are a growing reality because of the surging number of guns in the hands of gang members.
The guns are coming from burglaries, theft from autos, and a big part of it is straw purchasers. People illegally buying guns for people that shouldn't have guns.
John says he believes this summer will see more lives lost because of switches.
I don't want to predict it's going to be worse this year, but I have a feeling it's going to be worse this year because everyone has a switch.
That's what many.
And this was 3 years ago. This was in 2022, and we had record number homicides in the Twin Cities. 23 beat 22, and 24 was, I think, close to 23.
Minneapolis police are trying to prevent. Teams are working to get guns and switches off the street. The MPD says they confiscated these from recent busts.
Already this year, I believe the gun investigation unit alone has recovered, I believe it's 8 firearms that are fully automatic. That's a significant increase from last year.
MPD is not alone in this effort. The ATF is also actively searching for switch makers to stop the supply chain.
Now, if you're worried that this reporting may empower purchases, I want to point out switches are not easy to buy online. You need federal authorization to buy or possess a switch. Police say the bulk are purchased on the black market. Now, some switches are being made from 3D printers, but they are not the same quality as those metal ones that we saw in this story.
So illegal to possess them. Are they expensive to get if you can find them?
Well, if you can find them online in the black market, they're going pretty cheap. You can get them anywhere from $50 to $150, but it just depends on what's going on out there. It's crazy.
Is there any idea about legislating them or trying to get them completely out?
I know there are people talking about maybe enhancing some type of, if you get caught with one in the commission of a crime, that they'll enhance the penalty if you get caught and convicted for having a switch.
All right. Insightful. Scary.
Yeah.
Thanks, Reg.
Thank you.
They're gonna have to do something. They're gonna have to do something. These switches it's insane, man. And it's not it's not a Minnesota thing. These are all over. Yeah, and I agree with it. But here's the thing, Imperious. And the funny thing is, you're probably thinking more like a white man. It doesn't make the gun more dangerous. When you have a bunch of reckless idiots who can't aim a gun anyway with a switch, it just makes it more complicated. They don't care about a felony. The news has to do that at the end to clean it up, but they don't give a shit about the felonies. I mean, they just talked about a kid. He's got 7 open felony cases. He's still out here causing havoc. What else do you want? like honestly, man, I think that if they catch people with switches, they need to just give them automatic 10 years. That's the only way you can, like, policy wise, make it mean something. And they got to start keeping these dudes locked up, bro. Like, that's it. I mean, there's no reversing taking place here when it comes to these this gun violence situation. There's no reverse. 10 years. Yeah, the $250K fine, they're never gonna be able to pay that. But yeah, I would agree. I mean, it has to be hefty. It has to be hefty. I would say for sure 10 years with a switch. $250K fine may be necessary as well. They're never gonna pay it, but something's got to be done because it's crazy. And most switches go on Glocks, and the other piece to the Glock 2 is the extendo clips. So, these guys are having 30-round clips in a Glock, pretty much turning the fucking automatic pistol into a Uzi. Automatic life sentence. But something's got to be done. This is a big problem. So when I see what sparked this stream today was I had a friend of mine who said in Ohio and Akron, they celebrated no gunshot victims on 4th of July. And then I seen something in New York, they had the same type of thing. And I said, why is that a celebration that there was no gunshots on a specific day? Is the real American celebration deaf culture? Is that what we see? We hear about Chicago every year. But we have an issue with this gang violence situation. Salute to the brown man. Salute to EAE as well. We have an issue with this gun violence situation. And if we're going to be honest about it, it's mainly a black issue. Black young people, the number one death of black men 14 to 25 years old is homicide, gun violence. Google it, Stanley. It's the number one. It's been that way for, I think, the last 5 or 6 years. It's not car accidents like many young people. It's not even suicide like many young people. It's literally homicide amongst ourselves. It ain't police killing each other. So the celebration is more important than the gun. That is a stupid question. I don't even know what you're asking me, Stanley. No, I'm not. I don't understand what you're even. I don't even want to think about what you're asking because it doesn't make any sense. What I'm saying is the gun violence has become a part of the ritual of celebrating the country amongst us ourselves, is to shoot things. Another story I didn't cover was we just had a mass shooting in Minnesota. Most people didn't even hear about it. Matter of fact, fuck it. I got some. I don't really have time, but I'm gonna pull it up anyway. Let me pull it up because it's just. I mean, it's just non-stop, man. It's just non-fucking stop, just over and over and over. Oh, here, damn! I just walk in the shit. I haven't. Oh, that's 35 minutes. I can't show. I'm gonna save this clip for later. But a lady says it's us killing us. I mean, are we starting to wake up? This at the Falwell Center. This is one of Minneapolis' most notorious parks. I don't know that lady. I don't know her. She doesn't look familiar. But it's the same shit all the time. Where is that mass shooting at? Girl, Amy. We'll say Minneapolis mass shooting. I mean, this just happened. There's the brief. I need a short story. What we know. Here we go.
New from overnight, a mass shooting at a Minneapolis park leaves at least one person dead and
this was a month ago now. Jeez, time goes by fast. What date is this? June 2nd. Damn, that was a month ago. It seemed like it was like 2 weeks ago.
several others hurt.
Bill Keller is on top of the story. He's live at Boom Island where this all happened. And Bill, we heard from the police chief. Bring us up to speed as to what we know right now.
Well, good morning, guys. Yeah, crime scene investigators continue to process what is really a massively huge crime scene. They've been out here for 9.5 hours. You can see the parking lot filled with hundreds of those green and yellow evidence markers that are being used to identify, in most cases, shell casings from what the Minneapolis police chief described as a chaotic scene. Here's what we know. The first calls came into 911. That started around 9:30 last night. That's when officers responded here to Boom Island for reports of gunfire. It is unclear how many people opened fire, but witnesses said there were so many shots, it sounded like fireworks.
Don't know what can motivate people to come armed.
Salute to Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara. This guy actually tries. He tries. They picked a good one in him. He actually tries to make a difference. And he keeps it a buck, too. He doesn't pull any punches. He's a straight shooter. They found this guy out of New Jersey. I don't know how long he'll be here, but while he's here, he's trying to make a difference. But he knows he's up against culture.
To a gathering like this in the way that they did. And so we're working to identify what the motive and what actually caused this.
Police confirmed that a total of 6 people were shot. The victims transported to area hospitals. Some arrived on their own. We have been learned that one woman, an adult female, died as a result of her injuries. Others expected to survive. There was a second woman who also suffered some minor injuries, not from gunfire, but just the chaos that ensued as people tried to flee this area. Really a bottleneck leaving when there was hundreds of people. At one point, police said they were called to the hospital, to HCMC, where a large group was fighting outside, presumably over what had happened here. HCMC then put on lockdown until police could clear that scene. It is still uncertain exactly what led up to the shooting, but police say hundreds were gathered here at Boom Island for some kind of event. No arrests have been made. They continue to investigate. Back to you.
Yeah. All right, Bill. We'll continue to stay on top of it live from the scene. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Bill.
New from.
Oops. So when you hear things like black fatigue, this is why. People are just done, man. I mean, you can't keep living like this, dealing with this shit every day, all day, every weekend. It's exhausting. So I'm gonna wrap up because I gotta go. I gotta go meet somebody. So it doesn't make sense because you're a frustrated anti-black. You know, Stanley, you're right. I am frustrated. I am. I'm frustrated because I care, and I probably shouldn't care anymore. You know, I have a decent life. I'm not in the midst of all the Negro nonsense. But the part of me still does care. I care that these children have to live and navigate these streets, ducking bullets, you know, damn near hopeless, not a lot of encouragement, stepping over needles. I do care about that. I probably shouldn't. I mean, I could easily close my eyes and just keep moving on with life and act like none of this shit exists. Honestly, I mean, I don't need it. I've been able to figure out my career where I don't need it at all. Yeah, I am a sucker. Yeah, Hood, I know Hood's gonna call me a sucker because I know Hood's like, fuck that. But there's a part of me that still cares. That part of me has shrunken over the last few years. But there's a little bit of me that still does care. And you can call me a coon for that reason, that's fine. But I care enough to say something and to not turn a blind eye about the truth. We have a fucking problem in the Black community when it comes to violence, period. I could do a whole show about domestic violence, intimate partner violence, which goes both ways if we really want to talk about it. And when I mean goes both ways, the male and female partner get aggressive with one another. We can talk about that too. There's a violence issue in our community, in this community, I should say. So if we want to keep comparing ourselves to whites and say they do it too, that's fine. But the results and the outcomes and even the intentionality is not the same. We have to do something about this. Yeah, there are a bunch of Black people who don't deal with it, but the ones that do cause such a havoc. How do you not say anything about this? How do you not do anything about this? So I don't know. I just wanted to kind of go through those little videos. I've seen some of them earlier this morning. And it's like, man, it's gonna be a long summer, man. And when does this stop? I personally don't think that I think there's strategies, but I don't think that there's a solution because this is so ingrained in the culture that there may not be any turning back on this at all. The violence does reflect me to a certain extent, Stanley. I could take somewhat of accountability because I chose to not be a part of that community anymore. I don't live there. I don't pay taxes in that community. I chose not to raise my kids in that community. So yeah, a part of it is a reflection of me. I if I'm honest, part of the finances that I make is from that community because I analyze or strategize or build programs or whatever. So yeah, part of it is a reflection of myself because I've selected not to be a part of it. I'm from that. I'm from it. Like I didn't grow up in North Minneapolis. I grew up in what's called Frogtown of St. Paul, which is just a smaller version of North Minneapolis, where the Black folks are in St. Paul. Rondo community, east side of St. Paul. I've been in all three neighborhoods. So yeah, it is a reflection of myself to a certain extent because I took the social capital that I could have had in that space out, which leaves a void, which leaves more for that bullshit to take place. Yeah, then that's fine. It might not. Yeah, I'm in the caring profession. And I probably should stop caring, honestly. I mean, and I say that I care because I do, because I am. At the end of the day, I'm still Black, and part of that Black identity, that racial idolatry is still in me. I can't lie about it, even though I pointed out. But it's not what it used to be. I used to be an extremely pro-Black dude, but I'm way different. But at the end of the day, man, Negroes will wear you out where you don't care no more. They will wear your ass down, and that's what's happening. So anyway, I got to get going. I'm about to be late to my next little rendezvous I got going on. So I'll be back probably sometime later today. I hope everybody's having a great 4th of July weekend. Cheers to all of you who are already drinking and having a good Sunday. Praise God and take care of yourselves. Be safe, be well, and be constructive. And I'll holler at you all next time. Peace.
Oh my God, it's just such an unbelievable moment.
Brandon, you also told me, as you can hear the chants from the crowd,